Okay, this is Insight 69. Method 2 is basically from 69 to 72, the insights. I'm going to read it, then explain it. What should take place is the introduction. This is method 2. What should take place is the introduction of helpful information in early childhood before the misleading and addictive information has a chance to be presented to the child. That's the ideal situation. However, the child usually falls into the trap of dangerous misinformation and gets addicted to its pleasure and variegated, these different data. When the helpful information arrives, it is often too late for it to have have a significant effect. So this is basically saying the simple fact that what needs to happen is for the good, enriching information to reach the child before he is exposed to the misinformation. Hopefully from an adult describing to the child of appropriate age so that the child can understand using terminology that the child can understand, the parent will use to teach the child about manipulations and how not to fall for that. An example of that is parents, when they have the child go to school, before the child goes to school, the parent prepares the child by saying, look, when you go to school, some kids or adults might offer you cigarettes. And you don't want to take it because it's bad for your health. It does terrible damage to your health. And also, they're trying to addict you. They might give it to you, the first one, for free. And then, once you get addicted, you have to constantly get more and more. And you have to pay from your own money just to get this thing because you're addicted. You say this to your kids before they go to school so that they're prepared. We're talking about a kid of 5 years old who's learning this from the parent. I remember my mom told me this. She told me this in regards to cigarettes, drugs, and alcohol. All these three items, she said, it's the same thing. The drugs and the alcohol, at first they might offer you for free, so that they get you addicted. And all this stuff is bad for you, bad for your health. Never did she say, don't take cigarettes. Don't you take this if somebody offers you this, don't you do that. No, she doesn't do that. If you do this to a child, it shocks the child. Disables the thinking process. You don't want your child to not think. You want them to think. And you don't shock them. If you shock them, they get the shock instead of the knowledge. You need to present the knowledge in a very calm, straightforward, informative manner to inform and educate your child so that the child becomes empowered. The child wants to know what is beneficial and what is good for them. Of course, and they will use it. Why would they not want to use it? And the child himself or herself will want to stay away from anything that's bad for them. All they need is information, to be told what is bad for you, what is good for you, and so they can use that information. So don't be shy about telling your kids about important things that they need to be wary of, so that they can prevent themselves from getting into the trouble of these kind of manipulations. Same with sex. Sexual misinformation is presented to children using all sorts of magazines, various sorts of magazines, videos, internet, this and that, stories of all sorts, books and whatever, all ways and forms, in various movies, so to addict the child. Right? A lot of this stuff is provided for free. Why? Why is it provided for free? To get people addicted. Yes. To get people to have people get a taste for it, get addicted to it. I know. At first they start out slow and go to deeper and deeper depravity. So that the person gets addicted, and then they have to pay out of their money to get more and more addictive information. So the child has to be prepared beforehand about sexual information as well. Um, you don't have to be all blunt about it, but you can be show the methods that is used, make them aware and understand how this stuff really works. I mean, you do that for advertising, right? You teach them about advertising. It's like you teach your kids about how not to be influenced by other kids. I remember my mom saying if she repeated something to me that she heard from somebody else, how she was taught, I guess. So she said, if somebody jumps out of the window, will you jump out of the window with them? you know. So this is telling the child not to simply follow along what other people are doing. In other words, think for yourself. So the same thing with sexual misinformation. They present it in manipulative ways, and you want to have the child become aware, hey, that they trick people in manipulative ways, and these are the ways they trick you. Given some examples, right? So, like for example, you do the same with kids. Your kids, as far as they may, for smoking, you will tell them, okay, the tricks that they might use the kids to have you smoke. While you're teaching your kid, you say to them, okay, maybe the kid will tell you, smoke, come on and try it. It's really fun. It's really cool. So, makes you real cool. It makes you sophisticated. It makes you intelligent. Makes you look older and stronger, more confident. Girls will be interested in you. Or for the girls, they might say, oh, you will look more confident if you smoke. So you teach the kids through examples of what they might use to trick the child. Oh, it's fun, blah, 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 blah. So in the same way, you want to teach them about the specifics of the techniques, which are non-sexual, the techniques using contrasts to impact the mind. The child needs to understand how the techniques works. When he's presented with the techniques, he notices them, spots it, and he goes, I see the trick here, and he's trying to impact my mind. Not impressed, Very good. So this was insight number 69. So often, but what often really happens is that kids don't get the information. Parents are too shy to talk about the subject, so they don't prepare the children. So this is what happens. About insight number 69. Let's see, it's a time. I wanted to mention that time has to be mentioned to kids as well. They have to be taught that when a person is focused on these sexual matters, which is actually misinformation and manipulative, tricky sexual information designed to addict them, that their time is wasted, and their time is their life. They need to realize the impact of that. While they're focused on this stuff, they're not doing their homework, they're not having fun, other kinds of fun, they're not learning things, they're not talking with men and women to learn about relationships that eventually would allow them to actually form a good relationship and decide on a good partner. They're not having any of that. They're not having anything of life, really, because they focus on this task, this sexual misinformation, which is artificially grabbing the attention of the mind and making them a slave. It's grabbing their time. It's grabbing their life. Their time is their life. They need to be conscious of that and not to waste their time. I mean, kids don't like to be bored. Oh, don't waste my time. Like when time out is one of the worst things, because a kid wants to be alive and do things, right? So a kid needs to understand that while engaged in a task, while engaged, the consciousness, where their thinking is grabbed, when their attention is grabbed, and by some artificial means, well, that's the same thing as wasting their time. They're not having fun, a true fun thing. They're being tricked into wasting their time, which is their life.